The string pickaxe is gone, there's a new type of suspicious stew, as well as 2 new menus. This is the first pre-release for 1.19.4, and it was marketed with a player riding a phantom, which caused a lot of confusion, but it will all make sense by the end of this hopefully shorter video, which is not covering a snapshot. This is different to a snapshot, because this is them trying to release a few new features in the next week or two, but it does unusually include some features that are coming in that next big update. I'll be clear about which ones are which, but let's start with the brand new menu screen, because they have actually changed it from the previous snapshot you might be familiar with, and I really like these changes. Look at this, instead of being buttons up there, they're now tabs. Instead of having all this stuff be kind of off, it's center aligned, which is really nice, and honestly, I love the fact that you can scroll through this with the arrow keys, and it actually looks like scrolling through tabs in a folder. It actually reminds me a lot of the Minecraft Bedrock menu, and I think it's a really positive improvement, but it's not the only brand new menu screen improvement that they've made, because if you go back to the resource packs, we have a new built-in resource pack. So as you can see, this is the default look, it is built in. There's programmer art, which is pre the texture pack changes, but now there's also this brand new high contrast menu screen, which you can use to, again, enhance the UI contrast of Minecraft, and after enabling it and allowing Minecraft to do its resetty thing, you get this much better menu screen, which is great for people with color blindness. A lot of people assume color blindness is seeing the world in black and white like this, but it's actually much more like seeing differences between colors being really tricky. The classic example is that the reason Minecraft had to go with emeralds instead of rubies is because rubies looked a lot like redstone if you can't tell the difference between certain shades of red. And so here's an interesting thing, right? If you look at Minecraft on the new menu screen, no matter what vision and which colors you see difficulty with, this is much easier to see than the other menu screen, and I think it's a really nice thing. It's great for accessibility, but I also like it personally. In fact, I think a fair number of Minecraft players will probably enable the high contrast menus even if they don't need it, just because they prefer the look, and that is a good thing. Accessibility that is open for more people is generally a great thing in my opinion, but speaking of things that are great, let's talk about what they've changed in the update itself. They're making quite a few changes in this update, which are mostly changing the idea of enchantment glimmer. So enchantment glimmer is the thing that makes your sword glow with this fun effect as it's on there. They did massively nerf this in a recent 1.20 snapshot, but they've gone for something which is kind of half and half in this, where you can still very clearly see it's enchanted. Look here in the menu, you can see my netherite sword, very clearly enchanted, my diamond sword, very clear which one is enchanted and which one isn't, and that is really great that you can see the difference clearly, but it's not as ridiculously distracting as it was before. I mean, I'd argue if you put it on something like a wooden sword, it might still be distracting, but if you have an enchanted wooden sword, you definitely want to be distracted by it, because wow, why else would you be doing that? But in general, yeah, they've done a really great thing with the enchantment glimmer, which is to make it a little bit more minor while still allowing it to be clear, which is a nice middle ground for them to strike. I also think an interesting middle ground for them to strike was to remove the enchantment glimmer from potions altogether. The fact that they had them before is kind of confusing when you see them here, but if you notice, they are suspiciously plain when compared to pre-releases, and so yeah, now you can drink all the potions to your heart's content without having to worry about the bottles being this very clear thing. Speaking of things you don't have to worry about, also slow falling plus leaping is a fun combination. Speaking of things you don't have to worry about anymore because of 1.19.4 is a brand new command, which obviously has existed for a little bit, but it's something they've just fixed in this update, because the /ride command will allow you to ride various mobs. You might have known about that. However, it wasn't working correctly with the phantom, which is something they've now fixed. So if you want to ride, say, a polar bear, all you have to do is type /ride and then put yourself, and then mount, and then the current entity that you're looking at. Apparently they all have a big code attached to them, which means that when you do that, you can officially ride any mob in Minecraft. Although, I think I'm invisible, so maybe I should clear that effect first. But you're gonna have to trust that I'm riding this polar bear right now. I hope. Okay, you don't have to trust anymore. Here is me riding a polar bear, despite the fact that that's not possible, because the game allows you to ride any mob like that if you really want to, and this includes the phantom. The phantom is a bit of a ridiculous one to want to ride, but you know what? If you really need to go for it, then you really need to go for it. So make sure you're looking at said mob, which I'm going to do right now. /ride, okay, you're going to be looking at it during the thing. That's complicated. So let's say you wanted to ride a phantom, you could use the /ride command. You could say yourself is going to mount the phantom. We'll also grab a new not glowing potion, by the way. Oh wow, night vision looks so weird without the glowing effect on it. But now, what we can do is we can fly the phantom off into the night. You might assume at least. Apparently you would assume incorrectly. The phantom is stuck here forever. and there is nothing we can do about that. Oh, here we go. Either way, phantom riding wasn't working correctly, and so this is one of the bugs they fixed in this update. There's always a whole host of bugs that they fixed. For what it's worth, the same bug where the passenger would be too high also applied to an ender dragon, and that's been fixed in this update as well, but they've also fixed a few interesting things to do with camels. For example, camels will now not be able to bounce as high in the air when being ridden across water, but also cherry wood, for example, will work in furnaces correctly. Also, you'll be able to use cherry wood to make charcoal, and they fixed a bunch of interesting 1.20 things, which is interesting for a 1.19.4 pre-release, because everything I've mentioned so far about enchantment glint, which, by the way, can be changed with resource packs, about the /ride command, you know, all these things are about 1.19.4 specifically. However, that doesn't mean that everything in this update specifically is going to be, because they are still giving you a 1.20 snapshot, just blended in here kind of confusingly, and so let's talk about what else is in there, because they made 3 really significant changes. One is the string pickaxe, as we like to call it. The brush has been changed a little bit alongside a brand new texture to better reflect the way it actually looks, and this is using a brand new recipe which looks like this. A little bit of copper in there is for good measure. I like that they're giving copper a little bit more use, and because copper is so easily obtainable in the early game, it still means that you can do archaeology very early on. Maybe it's a little bit harder for some players, but I'd argue getting free string is just as hard as getting a piece of copper, so I think it's about balanced in that way. They also changed the sniffer spawn egg colors. Do you like the look of these? And they've introduced a brand new suspicious stew. So suspicious stew comes in a bunch of variants. Here's a fun fact: on the Java edition, you can actually see all of the different variants before you eat it. However, now you can use the torch flower to craft suspicious stew, like so. What do you get when you do that? Well, the fun result is you get night vision, which is exactly the same as if you were to use a poppy. So, yeah, there is not a brand new suspicious stew effect for the torch flower. Instead, it just duplicates an existing one. I actually think this could be a really fun idea for Minecraft to implement, obviously in a future snapshot. They could add a brand new effect, or make it luck, or make it something else if they really want to. I think having a suspicious stew, having a suspicious stew which is specific to the torch flower would be a really fun idea. I also think, on the subject of seeing, they made it so that snapshot worlds from the previous snapshot will not load up in the 1.19.4 pre-release. I hope this is something that's fixed. I mean, obviously, it's a snapshot. They can do anything they want with them. However, in general, like I don't know, I put some work into a world for a snapshot, and I'd like it if that worked. Obviously, we'll have to see when the next week's official snapshot comes out. However, the next thing we'll see from Mojang won't be a snapshot. They are still, again, 1.19.4 will have more pre-releases and then presumably a release candidate before the update itself comes out, and that is something we're going to be seeing fairly soon. And so, it is a little bit confusing to include so many 1.20 features in this. However, I'm glad they're still moving forward with 1.20 stuff, even though they're releasing these smaller updates. One of the fears about releasing lots of smaller updates is what if it detracts from their focus on the big one, and it seems as though they're trying to make sure that they don't let it happen in this case. Every single week, we're still going to be seeing something brand new of 1.20, even if it's relatively minor and just bug fixes and a brand new brush recipe. Again, I like the brush recipe. I think feathers are, you could argue they're harder to obtain than string, but I also think that feathers and copper are both kind of underused, so that's real nice. They're making nice little changes every single week, and I love to see it personally. Maybe you love to see it too. I personally love that they're moving the giant boulder forwards of releasing this big update. That's something I can relate to. In fact, in my Let's Play kind of mentioned that, right? But I like that they're doing that, and that has been the end of today's update news video. I hope you enjoyed the slightly shorter format for the slightly shorter update. Like it if you did like it. Please do subscribe with notifications turned on if you want to see more of these videos, and I look forward to seeing you potentially tomorrow, because there may just be a Bedrock beta along the way with some new features for that. We'll have to wait and see, but for now, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing the cherry blossom and the armor trims if they have made any progress on those. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Goodbye. I'll use the outro text, like before you make a joke. Tell people to watch the 1.20 video that released earlier, in case they didn't see it. Okay.